Rather than redundancies, as Aer Lingus closes its cabin crew base in Shannon Airport, 45 ground staff will be laid off, while 81 crew are being offered enhanced redundancy or a transfer to Dublin. The airline's also announced it's closing its Cork base from September until November, with 198 staff being laid off for 3 months. And finally, health officials are reporting a further 358 COVID-19 cases. 102 COVID patients are in hospital, of which 39 are in ICU. That's it for now. More in an hour.
News Talk Weather.
Thanks to Ryanair. Track and solve your customer service queries online and on your Ryanair app.
Scattered showers will mainly affect the northern half of the country tonight. Many other areas will be dry. Lowest temperatures of between 1 and 5 degrees. And now you're up to date on News Talk.
The Newsround on Off the Ball
with Gillette. Put your best face forward with our new and improved razors.
This is News Talk.
Hi there, folks. So a busy show coming up this evening. The future for the greyhound industry is up for discussion in the first hour of the show. This hour, be interested in your thoughts. 53106, the text number. We're at Off the Ball on Twitter. Holly Carnes, Social Democrats TD for Cork South West, will join us. Gerard Dollard will join us as well. He's the CEO of the Irish Greyhound Board, so they're on the way in the next 15 minutes or so. Keith Higgins is pretty much a bona fide legend of Mayo football, I think, for the past 16 seasons. Made his debut 05, passed the ball to Kieran MacDonald for that great point against Dublin in the All-Ireland semi-final of 06. And, well, jumped a couple of generations and was still playing up until last year. So retired from the footballers, now captain of the Mayo Hurlers. He is on the way at 8 o'clock. Big night in the Premier League, of course, not least when it comes to Champions League football. Leicester at Stamford Bridge. Plus, there are 10,000 United fans inside Old Trafford this evening. We'll see how that develops. Dan McDonnell along at 9 o'clock. 53106, the text number, at Off the Ball on Twitter. Richie McCormack, hello to you.
Hey, Joe.
Adrian Barry, evening.
Evening, Joe. Richie.
So, like I said, 10,000 Manchester United fans inside Old Trafford. We'll see if they're in the mood to suddenly storm the pitch at once. That would be difficult, I would think, to stop, Adrian, from a security point of view.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't actually been following much of the game, I have to say, up to this point. I saw Cavani has scored a wonder goal by all accounts. But it was always interesting to see, given events that have been going on around the ground over the last few weeks, exactly how they'd respond when they get in there. Like, you like to think that maybe a modicum of common sense would kind of take over, given everything that's gone on around the world. But, I mean, particularly with a group that size, a bit of mob mentality, it doesn't take much, and before you know it, all mayhem could break out. But I haven't been following events.
Yeah, well, so far so good, I think. 46 minutes gone, nothing untoward yet. Keith Higgins, one of the great Mayo players, one of the great players, I think, of the last 16 years on the show after 8 o'clock, retired from football, now captain of the Mayo Hurlers, made his debut, like I said, 16 seasons ago, and was just a phenomenon. And in his own words, Adrian, it's on the way after 8 o'clock, but definitely a better hurler.
Yeah,
certainly in his teenage years, and you know, right up to when he started, up until he really dedicated himself to football in his 20s.
Well, it's the thing that people on the ground in Mayo GAA would always say, I mean, he's a good footballer now, but geez, you should see him hurl. Like, we're going to actually get a chance to do that now. And I know that listening to a good bit of the chat between yourself and himself earlier on, that you know, he's not got that yard of pace anymore, or maybe, as he said himself, maybe he wasn't always his biggest attribute. But interesting to hear him wrangling over the question about whether would you cash all that in for one of those over there in terms of an All-Ireland medal. And like, sure, he'll have the next like 50, 60 years to be pondering about that. It was an awful question, Joe. It really was.
The question, I think,
Shocking
Richie, was, so the 16 years, so amazing, you know, so enjoyable, so many great days, obviously some tough afternoons around the many finals he played in. But I was asking him, would you trade that 16 years, all the friendships, all the memories, all the great events, all the big wins along the way, would you trade those 16 seasons for maybe just 2 or 3 seasons in which you would win an All-Ireland? Which was a dreadful question.
Well, I don't think there's any, to be honest with you, right, I don't think there's any, like Nathan alluded to it there yesterday, just when any mention of Mayo and something that went wrong, he said, yeah, we've been robbed. I don't think there's any tactful way that you can approach the Mayo finals question with somebody as experienced as Higgins, of which there aren't that many. I mean, he's, as you mentioned there, he's seen many sunsets in terms of his days of playing football for Mayo. So, you know, it's a question that needed asking. I don't think he's going to haul you over the coals for and a slight clunkiness of its delivery.
No, I thought it was great. The delivery was spot on. I don't regret the delivery at all. I think it gets to the heart of the fact that a lot of Mayo players still had a great career, even if they didn't win in All Ireland. It's very kind of reductive to just reduce it down to did they win in All Ireland.
I think I wonder, asking a lot of those, I bet there are a lot of players who've been through Mayo over the last 50 years who've had cracking careers like Keith Higgins has had, and like success by any metric, I think, no matter what way you look at it. But I think that there will be a lot of those players who would cash it all in. Like, if we could wave a magic wand, you don't make one appearance for Mayo, you don't have any of that career, but they could have one All Ireland. I think you get a lot of players who'd say, sign me up. Like, it's not like a little bit of a drought. It's like one of the greatest sporting droughts on the planet.
Yeah. Well, he's on the way at 8 o'clock. I see Eric Cantona and Roy Keane have been inducted into the Premier League Hall of Fame. Lads, on the Hall of Fame, I'm not saying Cantona was not a great player. However, the mystery of the man, the off-the-field antics, maybe portrayed him as being slightly better than he actually was. Burkamp on a different level, says this texture. I get that.
His period in the league is shorter, and this whole Keane Cantona thing strikes me as an appeasement to United supporters, because I think it's pretty well known that Ryan Giggs is going to be named number 3 going in alongside Alan Shearer and Ian Wright. That can't happen for a number of reasons right now. So it just kind of makes sense that they not only appeased them with one, but with 2 of their favourite ever players at Old Trafford. I
guess Cantona goes beyond just what he did in the pitch. It's the role he played in that period in the Premier League, in terms of just making it all that bit more glamorous and intriguing, and like
he made it sexier.
He did impact, yeah,
100%.
all that kind of stuff. That probably is part of it.
It depends on how much. Like, it depends on. Like, everybody's going to get. There's one for everyone in the audience at some point.
Yeah.
So
there'll be plenty to go around. It won't be that exclusive a club. I think anyone who should be in it will get in, because there's no restriction needed.
They're going to do things like trying to appease people in different markets. So like Sun Ji Hai will become the first Chinese member of the Hall of Fame, and you're going to see the first Omani member in Ali Al-Habsi and stuff like this going down in future years.
I want to start the campaign to get Dennis Irwin in, I think.
It bloody should have. I'd have him in for Cantona.
He'd be underrated, I would think. The Newsround on Off the Ball and News Talk is with thanks to Gillette. We don't just play the game, we change it. Gillette, made of what matters. So Richie, the live football then?
Yeah, fans have returned to Old Trafford for the first time in 2.5 weeks. It's Manchester United 1, Fulham 0 with 6 minutes played of the second half. There, that Edinson Cavani chip pretty early on, appeasing and quelling whatever disquiet there might have been among the Old Trafford crowd. They kicked off at the same time at St Mary's. It's still goalless there between Southampton and Leeds. Michael Obafemi and Will Ferry on the Saints bench. Champions Manchester City have started well away to Brighton. Ilkay Gundogan opening the scoring there after just 3 minutes. But match of the night is at Stamford Bridge, and it's a rerun of Saturday's FA Cup final with Chelsea taking on Leicester City. Should the Foxes repeat the trick of Saturday and beat Chelsea for a 3rd time this season tonight, they'll secure a place in next season's Champions League kick-off there at 8:15.
Yeah, high stakes. Kicks off at 8:15, as Richie says. We'll be right across that game all the way through the football show. Now, interestingly, John Kiley has come out and apologised to Galway, Rich.
Yeah, he's ignored Limmy's advice of don't back down, double down. He says he apologised to Galway for the comments he made on Sunday. He's accused some of their players, or he did at least, of simulation during their Allianz Hurling League game in Salt Hill. However, Kiley told the Irish Examiner today that at the time, I was of the opinion that I'd seen an incident I wasn't happy with. It was late in the game and very much to the forefront of my thoughts after the game. But over the last 2 days, I have been going through the video footage of the game and had a very clear sight of those incidents I referred to. The bottom line is that what I thought I had seen was absolutely not the case. I wish to wholeheartedly retract those comments with regard to Galway and apologise for them. It's important that I set the record straight now, that I'm certain what I saw was not what I believed I'd seen.
Yeah, very interesting, because we had Michael Verney on yesterday, Adrian, and he was saying it, nothing jumped out to him really, in terms of simulation, or let's just call it what it is, diving. And he was surprised at Kiley's comments, not least as well because John Kiley is not in the habit of going after other teams. And, Kiley was calling the diving embarrassing. It was really strong. I guess it just proves, in fairness, he's come out, he's apologised, he's looked back at the tape, he's entitled to do that. It does just highlight when you're getting managers and players immediately after the full-time whistle, you're often getting the best stuff.
Yeah, definitely. And look at fair play. Jackie Cal was on the Sunday. Jackie Turrell was on the Sunday game on a different beast entirely on the Sunday game on Sunday night, reacting to that interview. And I think his comments at the time, and I'd need to look back at them. I was just thinking about it as you were chatting. That John Kiley was right to have come out in the way that he was. That I think it shouldn't be interpreted. I don't think the apology, which was all class, to be fair, like. He's hands up, made a mistake, want to set the record straight. And why wouldn't he, in terms of like he'll be meeting Galway down the track a little later in the year, and you don't want to be having that hanging over the game. I'm sure that was part of the rationale as well. But that there does seem to be, still a lot of confusion, even though what he's saying is, listen, I was mistaken about that one thing that I saw. Want to build a bridge around that, but that there still seems to be some confusion, and obviously in relation to how referees are interpreting things. But on that specifically, I think fair play.
Yeah. I mean, it won't stop Galway talking about it at length in advance of the game anyway. Forget the apology. Embarrassing. He called you all embarrassing. I mean, once it's out of the... genie's out of the bottle and all that. So, but in fairness, he was at pains to apologise. So you take him at his word for sure. Because it was kind of telling, I suppose, that even when RTÉ were discussing it, there was no footage of the dives. You would think if there'd been some egregious dives, they would have said, well, this is what he's talking about. And the fact that wasn't quite there maybe is telling.
Do you know what? I was watching the Sunday game on Sunday in light of what Kiley had said, and just towards the end of the highlights package, there was an incident close to the touchline and not far away from Kiley, at which he seemed to get pretty animated, whereby there was one of those challenges whereby a Galway defender or Galway attacker ran into a Limerick defender. Their names weren't evident at the time, but there was somebody went to the ground, and it looked pretty easy and pretty cheap. So I'm pretty sure and it was near the end of the game, I'm pretty sure, without wanting to put words in his mouth, that's the incident to which he was referring. But again, like, it's not something that you could ever point towards as being blatant. Yeah,
okay. So Sligo Rovers, good news for them.
Yeah, it would seem so anyway. The FAI has endorsed Sligo's plans to redevelop the existing stadium at the showgrounds. The Premier Division club have published plans that include turning their home into a 6,000-seater stadium. The club, where current Irish captain Seamus Coleman played for 3 seasons, also plan to build an academy complex. The estimated cost of the project is €17.3 million, and club chairman Tommy Higgins believes it can get underway soon.
Well, it's a big challenge, but it's been a huge challenge for Sligo Rovers for the past 93 and a half years. But I believe there's huge support for these proposals that we're bringing forward, and I think we will get a lot of support from everybody. I believe that we'll bring this to fruition, and our plan would be to get this all in place by the time of our centenary in 2028. That's 6.5 years, and that's probably a reasonable timescale.
You would sort of hope, given the development, the Tallaght Stadium, the Dalymount Park situation, what's going on finally up with Finn Harps after so long, and now the showgrounds, that we're in a period which we'll look back on as the general improvement of League of Ireland stadiums around the country.
Yeah, fingers crossed. The Sligo situation will be a really good one, because the showgrounds isn't actually the worst of grounds to begin with, but doing it up and getting everything in place that they want to put in place there with the academy and putting a roof around the whole stadium would be brilliant. Having a 6,000-seater stadium there, 6,000 at Dalymount, 7,000 at Tallaght, Finn Harps getting going. You just really want things to improve as regards the ownership model down in Cork, and then if Dundalk can finally pull their finger out and do up Oriel instead of chopping and changing managers, then we might be in a really good position in about 10 years' time in the league in terms of facilities.
Yeah, it would be great. Now, Roy Hodgson, he's leaving Crystal Palace. Not retiring, though.
No, not retiring. Roy Hodgson leaving Crystal Palace at the end of this season. The former England, Inter and Switzerland boss turns 74 this summer. Hodgson is the only Palace manager to keep the club in the Premier League for 4 consecutive seasons and is their longest serving manager since Steve Coppell. But despite his advancing years, Roy says he's not retiring just yet.
No, I mean, one never knows. I think it's a dangerous thing to do when you still feel good about yourself and you still enjoy your life in football. I think it's a dangerous thing to do, to suddenly start making the bold statement about retirement, and this is the end of me, if you like, within the world of football. I really don't know. I've got to say that I'm certainly not leaving Crystal Palace with the idea of putting myself back on the market and trying to get another job. I really am stepping down from the club and stepping away from football for a while, but who knows what the future will bring. I'm quite excited by the fact that I still have a future that I'm looking forward to, whether it be in football or elsewhere, and I'll wait and see what happens. And it's a never say never moment, I think.
Yeah, good on him. I always remember Damon Delaney talking about maybe his last year at Palace when the legs had largely gone and he wasn't of much use in the way he wanted to be, but Roy Hodgson very much wanted him to stay on and let's, end it on your terms. And he talked to him a lot about retirement and they had lots of kind of chats in the office. And look, even Damien would say it was shrewd on Hodgson's part as well, because Delaney was a good voice in the dressing room and kept certain antics probably in check, set a good example. But he was singing his praises, massively Hodgson's praises, saying like he was just brilliant, chatted more to me than he might have needed to. It wasn't like I was much used to him going forward, and he still invested in me. So that was an interesting perspective. And the man has had an unbelievable career.
Yeah, class. I was watching back that Damien Delaney clip today, and it was all class. It was a player, like you say, who, by all intents and purposes, was finished at that stage and was of no use to him at all. And he was taking the time to, as he said, eloquently explain to him why he wasn't involved, that it wasn't just a flip it, you're not in the mix. I watched this and wondered sort of why, if he's not, has he just decided maybe the Premier League is too much for him? He's done obviously a really good job. Richie mentioned about the fact that he has kept the club in the Premier League for longer than anybody else. They're a club obviously tend to spend their money on wages rather than transfers. And when you break things down, they're doing okay.
There's a new cycle coming in there. There's a new cycle coming in there, Adrian. Just the way I want to cut across you, they've got 12 players out of contract this summer, and there's an entire rebuild required. So you would imagine that they want somebody in place. If they're going to change manager, it's going to be this summer, and they want somebody in place who's going to be there potentially all going well for the next 3 to 4 years. And Hodgson, given the age profile, just sadly isn't going to be that.
Fellas, we are out of time. Many thanks. Richie McCormack, cheers.
Cheers.
Adrian, thank you.
Thanks, lads.
Before I sign off from the news round, we have an exclusive Champions League final preview show with thanks to Pepsi Max, May 27th. That is Thursday week. So Teddy Sheringham's going to be on, knows a thing or two about Champions League finals. Denise O'Sullivan as well, 80 times capped for Ireland, and another big name or two to be revealed as well. So tickets are limited, they're going fast. If you register at otbsports.com/events, you can get the tickets. All with thanks to Pepsi Max, maximum taste, no sugar, hashtag for the love of it. Now, short ad break, and then we're discussing the future for the greyhound industry next.
I was so pleased to just be there and be playing at Augusta.
Everybody understands